Welcome to Food Sports Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. I'm, of course, your host, Mark Conway. And guys, look at the calendar. We're literally days away from the 11th annual event in Dallas, Texas at Fair Park with the biggest names in food sport. We have John McFadden coming all the way back from Australia to start the defense of his title that he won earlier this year and becoming the food sport champion. We have Preston Wynn coming back, the previous food sport champion, and a whole host of all the usual suspects. This year, though, is going to feel maybe a little different. We have the addition of some categories. We have chef category coming back. We have a cocktail competition that's taking place that's going to kind of act like a soft opening for a new cocktail championship that's on the horizon. We're going to have some big surprises that haven't even been announced yet. And master judges are going to take center stage in an even bigger way. This year, they're going to send two people to the finals. And then they're going to, from their illustrious stage panel seats, determine the category champions again. But remember, we're not having 10 people go from first round into the finals. It's going to be a grand total of only 7. And 2 of those are going to be decided upon by our master judges. So that means you've got to bring in the right people. They have to have the right experience, the right pedigree, the right demeanor, the right taste buds, so to speak, to determine who those people are that are blowing the culinary world away with new techniques, new flavors, new combinations. And so I began a search earlier this year of who I felt really needed to be part of these panels. And there are people that you know, there are people that you follow and that you watch on television. And I thought, what better way to kick it off to introduce you to some of these master judges than to do Food Sports Central. So today on the show, we are joined by one of these critically acclaimed master judges that is going to hit the scene in Dallas, and you are going to be wowed, and the competitors are going to be thrilled to have their food judged by them. Today's guest is none other than Chef Brian Duffy. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you, brother?
Man, I'm good. It's great to catch you because you've been globetrotting all year long.
Oh my God, I on average I fly between 100 and 130,000 miles a year, and this year has just exploded. I've been on the road since January. I'm home for 3 days, and then I'm heading down to see you guys.
I mean, that's crazy to think about because really I've run into you in so many different locations across the country. You've been on the main stage at major industry events. You've been judging cooking competitions.
Yeah.
You've been doing your TV work. Like, you are a little bit of everywhere. Have you figured out how to clone yourself, or you're just that you have a portal that allows you to get to each place?
You know what it is for me, man? When I left being in the kitchen every day, I got bored. I got really bored. I actually left years ago to go, and I went into development, where I worked for a development company where I made frozen seafood products for every major grocery store chain in the world. A little bit weird to come out of running 17 restaurants, walking into this, but I wanted to know the process of how to get from here to a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
What did I need to do to get there? I did that job for 365 days. I weighed 293 pounds. I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. And I was completely miserable because I was just not doing what I love to do. So I started to do a lot more TV and then kind of moved in. But ever since that day, I just remember being like, I cannot be complacent. I can't just sit around. I've got to have something to do. So now with all the stuff that I do and all the travels that I do, it just keeps me super busy. I've got a great assistant who puts everything in place. We just talked about this. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that I've got a really, really good team that's working around me, and I've got really cool stuff coming up in the next couple of months. So you asked me before, do I have anything coming up? I got a beer line coming out in December or in January. There you go. That's my new fun project.
Now that takes fun project to a whole new level, man.
Exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. I partnered up with a company out of California. We've got some really, really cool stuff that's going to happen with it. I'm starting off with 4 beers. Every single beer is going to have a food component to it, which I'm not going to get into too much right now. We can do
Mhm.
that a little bit later, but there's going to be a really cool food component to every single style of beer that I put out that's also going to involve some ways to incorporate that into cooking.
Oh, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Because you see that all over the country today, whether it's a food pairing dinner or using spirits and beers and things like that into cooking. So to
Yeah.
create your line with that mentality already in play, I mean, it's just going to be uber successful all across the board.
I hope so, man. It's gonna. We're really excited about it. Like I said, my whole team. We've been talking about this for the last 3 months. Signed the paperwork a couple of weeks ago, and now it's time to get down to creative. So I got my first round of beers 2 weeks ago. I was super happy with the first round of them. And now I just got to start creating some really cool recipes and making it happen.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
you were also, while doing this, which would be the whole sum for some, for a lot of people, you also hit this year the food industry show scene, and we're doing so many live
yeah.
stage demos for so many different companies and at different events. Is that going to play into 2024 as well?
We're in the process right now. I just got off the phone actually 3 days ago with one of the brokers that handles a lot of the plant-based space. I am not a plant-based chef. Let's establish that right off
Hmm.
the bat. It is something that is going to be making major waves in the future. Last year it was a $42 billion industry, and we're looking at moving into $103 billion by the time it hits 2030. They say that 56% of households across America are utilizing some percentage of plant-based food. So
Hmm.
for me, when I first started to see plant-based stuff came out, I, just like everybody else and every other chef, made fun of it. Oh, great, here we go. Look at what we're doing now. I got a burger that looks like a burger. But I actually sat at a conference in Santa Barbara a couple years ago when Impossible was launched. And
Yep.
at that point, I kind of had it put on my radar. And these are those types of things that just kind of dance around in the back of your head a little bit. But when I started to listen to them talk and realize what was going on, we've got so many vegetarians, so many vegans, so many people that care about the oceans and the land and everything else,
Hmm.
that it was just an opportunity. So I partnered up first with a company called New Wave, which is a plant-based shrimp company. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but it's made out of mung bean and seaweed. And there's an unbelievable flavor profile to it. The texture is unmatched. They've got a breaded version and unbreaded version. And I was actually lucky enough to get up to the main stage at NRA twice. They asked me to do it the first demo, and then I actually closed the show out as well with that. Where I did a really cool fried rice using plant-based shrimp and a couple of other little fun products like a finless tuna that had gone into there. Um, but I mean, look, it's something that's going to happen. We can, as chefs, we can either embrace it or we can treat it like we did gluten, where we yelled at everybody for pretending they were celiac. So we finally had to embrace that one as well.
Absolutely, and it is. It's got such a growth market. Walking around a lot of the industry shows this year, I saw a lot of different options
Man,
coming up for meatless. So it's a
amazing.
huge, just an amazing. Basically, it's a high speed interstate to where kind of food's going to be in 2024. So to
Yeah,
be on board and doing some big things like that is really exciting to hear.
yeah,
And it's going to play in more and more, I think, in the coming year into food sport as well. And you're in that arena,
yeah.
well said, that you're in that arena a lot with a lot of your television, things through barbecue and even, going back, you're seeing a lot of competitive cooking throughout the year. Do you see some trends that you see might be turning for 2024 into bigger things?
I mean, honestly, I think, well, I mean, barbecue is just enormous right now.
Hmm.
I think coming out of pandemic, so many people uh, became kind of barbecue masters in the way that they
Yep.
did stuff, and the words char were no longer taboo. The idea of having a smoky flavor combined into so many different aspects of cooking is one thing that I'm seeing all across the board. I just judged a competition down in Canton, Georgia, this unbelievable event called the Red, White, and Blue Barbecue, which raises money for homeless vets and suicide prevention and the whole 9 yards. But some of the things that I was seeing down there were just unbelievable. I saw a guy who actually took rice and was dropping it into a smoker prior to cooking it. So we're
Wow.
imparting these flavors into things that we've never seen before. Again, we're not recreating the culinary wheel here, but it's just the idea that I did barbecue brawl with
Yep.
Bobby Flay and those guys in January or in July. And every single time that we were putting stuff up, it's like, we want more char, we want more smoke, we want more deep flavors. And those are the things that I like to do in the way that I like to cook. So what I'm seeing is those little components being dropped into dishes. I just had a guy a couple of weeks ago who made me a charred tomato vinaigrette. Basic,
Right.
really very basic and very simple. But the complexity that a tomato takes on when it ends up in an oven or ends up in a smoker or ends up getting any form of blistered or charred on it, it sweetens that up, but it intensifies that flavor. And those are the things that I'm seeing that are winning competitions and winning dishes these days.
I think so. And I mean, it's one of the reasons that you see so many chefs really starting to understand the science of food and
Exactly.
then taking that and applying that to techniques that are tried and true. And now you're really finding, like you said, how to intensify flavors or to mimic a flavor over here and get that to be over here in a different dish, which nobody expects. So I
Yeah.
think I think you're right. I think you're dead on. That's what we're going to see moving into 2024 is people really starting to mix the science with the technique. And I don't mean just molecular gastronomy, but just what happens to sugars when certain things are done to them,
Exactly.
and especially on the savory side, which is really exciting to me to see sugars come into play, the natural
Right.
sugars that are in foods.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be great. And then, this will be your first trip to the World Food Championships to really see kind of where the food scene is moving in this term we call food sport, which
Right.
a lot of people are really starting to understand. It's not just a competition cooking show that you'll see on streaming somewhere, but there's a huge world that at any given moment, at any state, country, whatever it is you want to talk about, there is some type of big culinary competition, cooking competition taking place, and then
Yeah.
we're seeing these cumulative events, with the biggest, of course, being the WFC, and then we're excited that you're going to be there because that's going to be your expertise and your knowledge and your advice given to competitors that are just starving to see more.
It's something that I've actually, so I've watched you guys grow through the years. I've seen, I'm the kind of guy who I follow every chef who follows me.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to follow every single person, and I've started to see this really cool kind of wave of food sport chefs that are showing up in my feed and watching some of the stuff that they're doing and when they're testing and when they're trying things. I've had a couple of people who have seen me at competitions judging stuff, who will then send me dishes. Now, I want it to be known they've not sent me anything about World Food Championship happening in Dallas. Let's establish that
Right.
first. But they're saying to me like, "Hey, what do you think about this? What is this dish? Could I do anything different to it?" And I am always up to offer my kind of advice on stuff. Doing what I do with my consulting business, with my the entertainment portion of my business, the food side of my business, every single part of that is I'm constantly critiquing anyway. I don't know if you know, not only did I do NRA last year, but I also do a big show in Vegas called the
Yep.
Bar and Restaurant Expo.
Yep.
And at that expo, I read 30 menus live. So we will actually have people submit their menus ahead of time. I don't see them until I'm standing on the stage, and we have these menus popped up on a screen, and I start to critique these menus to make them either a little bit more profitable, a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more exciting that you can put on a menu, the way that they're verbed or what the ingredients that are in it, talk about utilization and stuff like that. So I've really done this for a long time. So for me to get in front of something like World Food is something I'm very, very excited about because I got a lot of things to say. So
Well, you're going to have a big platform to do that, and you're going to have a captive audience of hundreds of teams, because you got to figure we're going to have, you know, we're going to 11 culinary categories and a cocktail category, which I think you're going to love what's happening there. But in these 11 culinary categories, you've got 20 teams per category. Each team
Wow.
can be 3 to 5 active, 3 to 5 people, but only 3 active in a kitchen at any given moment. And John McFadden, our reigning champion, did the whole thing wire to wire by himself. The
Wow.
only person to do that. And when you meet him, you're going to love him. He's a machine. But what I think is going to be interesting is when you think about 20 teams per category, 11 category, that's hundreds of competitors with different mindsets, different thought processes, different backgrounds, how they grew up in food, why they do food, and all of them are just a sponge. And so
Yeah.
to be able to sit in front of someone like you and the master judges and be able to really say, here's my dish, this is what I poured my everything into, and get those thoughts, those different critiques, as well as the praise that comes along with doing sensationally well. I think that that's one of the things that makes the master judge program so special and unique.
Look, I've seen some of the judges that you guys are going to have up there, and I know a good amount of them. So I mean, I can only imagine. I know the kind of feedback that I give on things, and I'm a very blunt, direct individual. I'm really excited to see kind of how we all partner together and how we come up with the different critiques that we are going to put out there. I can't. I have no idea how you guys pull this whole thing off. I'll tell you that right off the bat. Just thinking about the amount of people, the volume of people that show up there, the organization that goes along with it is something that just blows my mind away. And at the same time, I'm excited to get down and really try some cool food, because it's events like this that lead chefs into different directions when it comes to food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I work with a couple of different food service companies about the fact that we're all getting real stagnant. When you look at what's happening, we all have the same 5 wing sauces on our bar menus.
Right.
Okay. We're all running the same appetizers. We've all got some form of cauliflower. We're all doing something with Brussels sprouts. We're all doing something with an egg. We're all doing the same stuff. So it's events like this that change the direction of the way that the culinary industry goes. And it's opportunities like this for guys like me who do have the opportunity to go around the country, who do have the opportunity to eat in trust me, multiple restaurants in a week. But to be able to see what younger culinarians, and not just younger culinarians, but people that have a really good idea of what they want to do with food, to put that food in front of you, and then for me to take that back to my clients, my speaking, my social media, my influencing that I try to get involved in to talk
Mm-hmm.
about food. This is something that is not only an honor for me to be involved in. I see this as an educational experience for me as
Right.
well, because I'm going to now see what other people are doing in different parts of the country, and it's all going to be happening in one central location.
I think that's what makes this so special, because food is one of those things. A lot of us refer to this as the world's biggest family reunion when we get there, but it's so reciprocating. There
Yeah,
is so much information going back and forth between master judges, competitive sponsors, companies, all of these people, because you're going to have people that will walk away from here that will have a whole new, like you said, a whole new zest for what they're going to do at the restaurant. Then you have a whole lot of people that'll walk away from here that are going to start new product lines and go, man,
yes,
because I saw this flavor combination or I saw this technique, I want to go forward. I want to push this. I want to push boundaries now.
yeah.
And that's how food grows. And I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about food sport overall.
I mean, going to the trade shows and stuff like that. Look, we're all seeing the same products.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say it all the time. I'm really excited to go to the quote unquote Bob's Food Service Company show, because I'm really excited to try 27 new varieties of chicken tenders. Okay. And that's what we saw year after year. And when you walk into something like an NRA or a bar and restaurant expo where you walk through, like what we do at the so inside of the bar and restaurant expo, we have the Food and Beverage Innovation Center.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is I have 8 chefs, 10 chefs that we work with. We are paired up with Middleby equipment, out of Dallas, actually.
Hmm.
And so they basically give us some of the most innovative pieces of equipment that are available to the industry right now. So I'm taking chefs who are putting dishes together, cooking on pieces of equipment that most people have never even seen before.
Yep.
So imagine how that spins our brain into thinking of what we can do, whether you own a tiny little bar and grill that doesn't have a lot of food. Man, I got a fryer that has its own hood system attached to it. It'll cost you 10 grand,
Yep.
and then it dumps itself into a thing called a crisp and hold, which works with convection air that keeps things hot for up to 30 minutes and doesn't really, doesn't get rid of moisture. I mean, there's opportunities to see some of these things. So the more shows that people can get to, the more that no matter what level of a culinarian you are, that you can go and watch these things happen. You're going to learn something. And at an event like this, it's not a paid event, meaning they're not paid sponsorships to be on the floor with a lot of the stuff that you're seeing. These are ingredients that are in a person's head
Yep.
that they're taking that and they're putting it on a plate because they got inspiration from something else. That inspiration leads to a trend. These are the types of things that lead to trends.
And it's organic and it's real.
Yeah.
You can feel it. Like when they're going to sit in front of you guys as a master judge panel and pour their heart out about, they talk about the food that you're trying. There, you literally get a piece of that passion coming through, and it makes the food taste that much better.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen all these competition shows that are on TV, and we've seen every angle of it, and we've seen we're used to critiquing now. I
Hmm.
mean, we're used to it, and there's an acceptance to that critique that comes through instead of a guest writing, well, it was cold and they wouldn't close the front door and the music was loud, so that made the food suck.
Right.
It's like we're there, we're dedicated, we're in one location, and it's a controlled atmosphere in many cases. So we're getting the best dish that you can possibly get at that exact moment. Look, I've judged things where stuff has been ice cold sitting on a table for 2 hours. And then you want me to judge this product or this dish that somebody is either going to win money or an accolade or a vinyl banner. Who knows what it is?
Right.
But you know, we want that food to be readily available right in front of us at that moment, the peak of its perfection. So that's what I'm excited to see with this. Really,
And
really excited.
and you're definitely going to get that because I think one of the most interesting things to watch is you'll see mirrored cooking stations on either side, and then there's a red carpet that comes right across between them into the front of the main stage. When the clock starts winding down and we open the turn-in window, it never fails. As we get to 5, 4, 3, someone is running at a
Yeah.
full sprint to get that platter to that turn-in table, and it is epic.
That's awesome,
So
man.
that's the reality of what it's going through, and then those go straight back. They're going to be judged, right away because yeah, I have seen that. You see that where you're like, all right, you can't judge on the temperature of the food because it had to sit through pictures and videos and all kinds of things.
Right. Exactly. And that's something, I can't remember what show I did. I did a show on Food Network years ago that was called Date Plate. Really, actually, a really kind of fun concept.
Hmm.
Um, for it, you watched a video of a girl or a guy. They told you about their personality, and then the contestants worked with a professional chef to create a meal that was based off of that person's personality. And it was
Right.
so funny because at one point I said, can we please have like a microwave? Just something that we could warm the dishes up a little bit before they get to us, because you nailed it. It's got to go through a lighting station. It's got to go through a food stylist. It's got to go just to make it all look good on TV. So to watch events like this happen and watch these people, what you're saying, literally run to get that dish up onto that table as fast as possible because you want to be judged on that dish, not something that was made an hour and a half ago.
100%.
Yeah.
Chef, where can everybody find you when they want to follow you?
I mean, look, man, I am no stranger to a little bit of Instagram. So Chef Brian Duff is my Instagram, and I'm on Facebook and all the other stuff. Or you can go to my website, which is chefbrianduffy.com, which we try to update as much as possible, but everything pretty much happens right through Instagram, man.
I mean, it's the go-to Instagram,
Yeah,
especially when it's anything food related. Instagram is the go-to. And guys, you know that you can follow the World Food Championships on Facebook and Instagram at, of course, World Food Championships. And then also the website, which is critically important right now, because what you need to know before you go is what you're going to find right there. And that's worldfoodchampionships.com. We're going to definitely talk more with Brian as we go, but we're going to hit on some more master judges along the way, so you meet who you're going to see before you even get there. So,
Nice.
Chef Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you this afternoon.
Mine as well, brother. Super stoked to hang out with you and eat some food and hang out in Dallas. Talk with an accent for a little while.
I think it's the best part of being in Dallas. Get some big buckles and some big hats and boots, and we'll have a really good time.
Nice, man. I'm stoked.
I'll see you soon, Chef. And guys, I'll see you all very, very soon.
Have a great one.